Shalom, family. Thank you so much for joining us here at Remnant House, the home of the strong and the very courageous. And tonight, we're, of course, doing our weekly news update where we stay, how do we say it, guys? Informed without being overwhelmed. And again, thank you for your patience. I don't know why it is that exactly 5:59 or 5:58, that's when I get an update or some kind of nonsense that goes on my system. And don't you think for a moment that that's not intentional. I got to tell you something, folks. We are opposed. I want you to know that. We are opposed by a monolithic wicked conspiracy out there, and it is against the saints. But you know something? That just gives us something to overcome. Man, it gives us a victory and a testimony. You can't have a testimony without a test. Come on, somebody, help me preach this thing. Thank you so much for the 5x5. I appreciate that. And I'm so grateful for all of you. Look at all these wonderful people here on the chat that came to join us. And so thank you so much for taking the time to join us for these updates. They are important. I believe this is the hardest broadcast I do. I kid you not. It's the hardest one I do all week. It is the most time consuming, the most challenging. But I also think important because we have to stay together on some of these things. And again, we can have different opinions on news stories and their outcomes and their importance and what have you, but we should at least know about these things. We should know what's going on, right? Or at least what they say is going on. Let's put it like that. Because how many know sometimes it's not really what's going on? It's what they say is going on, right? So we stay informed without being overwhelmed because we already know in whom we have placed our trust. And we know that no matter what's going on in the world, in the earth, we have the victory. Amen. And so just continue to believe and continue to walk in faith. This is very important that you walk in faith because fear will give your enemy his opportunity. It gives him his open door. And that's what, unfortunately, a lot of people have fallen victim to. They've fallen victim to a lot of fear, anxiety, unbelief, and as a result, they've troubled their own lives. They destroy their own way, and they massacre whatever blessing was coming their way. I'm telling you right now, one of the hardest things to overcome is your own mouth and your own bad attitude. So we got to get rid of those things by the Ruach. We've got to repent. We've got to clean up our act in that area, and we've got to speak life. We've got to have words of life over things. We got to be able to call those things that be not as though they were. And that's why it's important that we stay together, united and in one accord. And for those of you that are following along and perhaps joining us, some people are joining us for the first time. We have this great website called remnantwatch.com. Remnantwatch.com is where we put all the stories that we're watching, and we're getting more and more people that are clicking on links here. So we're grateful for that. And we do have various resources that we make available, one of which, of course, is the survival guides. And we're going to go over stories today that, again, make this important. Every week we say, we should, I talk about whether I'll keep those up there. And every week we get stories that tell us to do that. And of course, we have a search bar there for all our previous stories so that you can catch up quickly. And on the very top, Remnant Watch is always a banner that'll bring you to the latest weekly news update so you can stay informed without being overwhelmed. So thank you so very much to the members of Remnant House, that make this possible. Here, I'm going to put our Cash App thing up there so that those of you that want to give a tip to the house, you can do that. You can encourage us with that. We put those resources to work to help other people. So thank you very much for your faithfulness. Amen. And on that note, let's get into the news. All right, here we go. We got a lot to cover. And in tonight's top story, guess what? Iran has declared total war. Well, I don't think that's really news because I think that the United States basically declared war already when it went ahead and bombed Iran, right? So we know that war has already been the state. But it is interesting that for the first time, we've got an actual declaration coming right out of the Iranians themselves. And so we take a look at that story. And of course, it's scary to think about a war, but this is something that's constantly in our news. They want to bring us to our knees, claimed Iran's President Masoud Pezeshkian. I don't know quite how to say his name, so forgive me if I butchered that. And so the president of Iran has declared that his country is at total war with the U.S., with Israel, and Europe. Iran, one country at total war with U.S., Israel, and Europe. In the latest ratcheting up of tensions, speaking to Iranian state media, Masoud Pezeshkian claimed that the Western powers want to bring Iran to its knees. And he also used the interview to talk up Iran's military might and claiming it is stronger today than it was in June when Israel launched its first strike against it. And so once again, you've got saber rattling. You want to call it that? I don't know. You want to call it saber rattling? I think it's just goofy making. But here we go again, folks. The same old, different day. Same old, man. We keep hearing the same nonsense. And you don't want to know how long we've been listening. There's a reason why, especially if you're in my generation, or you guys that are up there a little bit. We have been hearing about this Iranian threat for 2 decades, solid 2 decades. Actually, more than that, 25 years. Since 1990 something, 26 years, something like that. We've been hearing about how Iran was just going to, they're the ultimate bad guy. And of course, I don't think the world's quite believing that the way they used to. So we're going to keep an eye on that situation in the Middle East because, again, there's some things that are evolving there. We're going to come back to that area here in a moment. But I definitely think it's very interesting that Iran has now made its declaration saying essentially, hey, look, we're at total war here. We are completely being attacked and we're going to keep being attacked. They want us on our knees. And frankly, I think they're not wrong. So I think that conflict was long ago planned and they're executing their plan. Speaking of things that look a little sketchy, we've been talking about this Venezuela thing. And I don't know about you guys. I really want your opinions. I really, really do, because there's so much going on here that has got me wondering. Okay. And Trump is saying that the U.S. struck a big facility in a campaign against Venezuela. Now, this is behind the New York Times. So I caught this. I was able to grab just a little bit before they popped the paywall on us. So the administration is providing no details of what the president said was an attack last week linked to the U.S. efforts to disrupt drug trafficking from Latin America. Okay. And such an attack would be the first on land since President Trump began his military campaign against Venezuela. And so President Trump said in a radio interview in the United States had knocked out a big facility last week as part of his administration's campaign against Venezuela, an apparent reference to an American attack on a drug trafficking site. And so American officials said that Mr. Trump was referring to a drug facility in Venezuela and that it was eliminated, but provided no details whatsoever. So they're not telling you what they're doing. They're just telling you that it's awesome and it's big and it's, here CNN's got their report on this. Hang on a sec. Let me get rid of some of these ads. And there we go. I don't know why they do that. Do anybody? You guys all click on those ads? I don't know why they do these things. President Trump said the United States took out a big facility last week as part of a pressure campaign against Venezuela, but provided few additional details. Now, here's what I find interesting. So one of two things can happen here. So I know he's such a man of peace. Isn't he something? Isn't he just a Nobel Peace Prize winner there? Isn't he something? And so my concern or my interest is in wondering what their goal is here, because it seems like if they were really trying to deal with the drug issue, if you will, and that's really their goal, well, then the Venezuelan government should be like rooting them on, like, come on, man. And hey, there's another one over here and there's another one over here. And hey, bomb this one too. And you guys are going to bomb all these for us? Oh, great. Hey, bomb that one. Hey, bomb that one. And oh, bomb that one. Right. But it doesn't look like that to me. It doesn't look like the Venezuelans, who were also claiming just 2 weeks ago. Right? Guys, remember that? How Maduro was up there saying, hey, we're working with you. We're knocking out these facilities. We're attacking these guys. What are you talking about? That was that other Tres de Agua, whatever that group is, whatever. Like, he was trying to pretend it was not us. We're not with that. And so yet the United States is not coordinating. So let me see if I got this right. You got a government that's coming out publicly saying they're anti these facilities. They're against them. Okay. And on top of that, they're trying to negotiate. They're like, hey, we're willing to sit down. And then Trump just says, we took out a facility. If you don't think there's a whole lot more going on here, then I want to know what you're drinking every morning, because maybe I need some. I don't know. Maybe I need some of that naive tea or something, because I cannot a naivete. I'm sorry, it's not called naive tea, it's naivete. I don't know, but I got to tell you, there's definitely more going on here than meets the eye. Okay, and we have to look a little closer at this situation, because there's just too many squirrely details. So we're going to be coming back to that. Speaking of Trump, he went over and he's making a deal, or trying to make a deal with Zelensky to get that whole Ukraine peace deal done. The thing he said he would do in one day, that's now been a year since or almost a year since he's been in. You know why? Because sometimes things don't go the way you plan. That's why. Sometimes things go awry. Okay, I don't think he's a bad guy for trying, but I do think that he underestimated the seriousness of the entrenchment of those that were supporting this conflict and why they were supporting it. So Trump and Zelensky say Ukraine's peace deal is close, but thorny issues remain. Well, isn't that exactly what we've been hearing for months? So again, don't buy too much of this, but nevertheless, it's good to see it moving in that direction. It remains after Florida talks, and a 20-point framework nears completion, but territorial disputes with Russia remain unsolved. Russia doesn't think so. Russia's going to try and hold on to whatever they took. President Donald Trump said Sunday that peace talks to end the war in Ukraine are very close and to completion after a meeting in Florida with the Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky, with both leaders citing major progress in a 20-point plan while acknowledging unresolved disputes over territory. And I think this is going to continue to be in the news for just a little bit, but I do think they're winding it down. Zelensky's running out of weapons, he's running out of bullets, and he's running out of soldiers. So unless Europe's going to go to war with Russia, or unless the United States is going to go to war with Russia, which it doesn't look like, the United States wants to go to war with Russia. They had their chance. They didn't want to. So I think everybody's now figuring out that the die is cast. Europe doesn't have the money, nor the manpower, nor the resolve, really, to really get in this fight. They were kind of hoping Ukraine would do their dirty work. Come on, let's be honest. They were hoping they would get a long shot there. They were hoping they're going to take out Russia. They were hoping some other thing was going to happen. And it didn't. It didn't work out. So their wishful thinking fell on their face. And now they're dealing with their bill. Now they're dealing with the reality that they've got an infrastructure in Ukraine that needs to be rebuilt. And not only that, but they really didn't understand the trade and macroeconomics that were involved, because now that affected not only the Ukrainian people, of course, but it affected various economies that were around Ukraine. Ukraine was like a breadbasket of Europe. It had a tremendous impact. To lose the granaries, to lose the things there, this was huge, folks. Not to mention the fact that when you have war on your continent, it doesn't do much for other things. So how was tourism this last year? You know what I mean? Things like that. And so this was a horrible thing. And I think that it's finally getting to the point where it just doesn't make sense to keep it going. And so thankfully, the war of attrition seems to be coming to an end. And for those of you that are just so grateful, I don't know about you, but I'm grateful just for stop killing. Just stop killing people, okay? And let's beat our swords into plowshares. So it's a very important moment, but folks, don't think for a minute that it's over, because we still have the spirit of war in the earth, okay? We still have the warmongering spirit in the earth. So again, you still have these threats that we still have to keep walking by. In fact, just this last week, the U.S. struck ISIS in Nigeria. And by slapping ISIS in there, by the way, they can do anything. I said by slapping ISIS in there, they can do anything. So Trump launches a powerful, deadly strike on ISIS in Nigeria and warns of more if attacks persist. And Donald Trump announced a powerful and deadly Christmas Day strike on ISIS terrorist scum, as he called it, in Nigeria, and warned the radicals will continue to pay for the persecution of Christians. The president, who previously threatened to send the U.S. military to the West African nation guns ablazing, made the announcement on Truth Social post Thursday evening. Tonight, at my direction, as Commander-in-Chief, the United States launched a powerful and deadly strike against ISIS terrorist scum in northwest Nigeria, who had been targeting and viciously killing primarily innocent Christians at levels not seen for many years and even centuries, he wrote. And so a spokesman for the Pentagon confirmed that to the Daily Mail, apparently, that the Nigerian government approved of and worked with the U.S. military on the strikes. Well, that's odd, because then they made some economic moves in Nigeria that are going to affect negatively the U.S. dollar. So we've got a bit of double messaging going on from Nigeria. But nevertheless, um, if you are watching the situation with persecution, well, then you're certainly grateful for the stopping of persecution. Although again, loss of life. So somebody says, "Hey, Peter, I think we found a good use for a bomb." Still struggling with that one, guys. Still struggling with that one. Okay, but I understand. Doubling back to Venezuela, because this is going to become a bigger issue. So again, I wanted to drop this. So he has no problem drop an ordinance, Mr. Peace guy. Okay, Mr. Peace, Mr. Nobel Peace Prize, and he was very upset he didn't get the Nobel Peace Prize. Remember that, guys? And so here we go, and I think everybody can see the real deal. Russia is evacuating diplomats and families from Venezuela as U.S. seizes oil tankers. So why would the Russians? Can I ask you this question? So if the U.S. is attacking drug facilities, would you be implying that the Russian foreign ministry is somehow involved with drug facilities? Okay, see why this story gets weird, guys? Is some of these facts just don't match the reality. Russia's foreign ministry has been evacuating families and diplomats from Venezuela, a European intelligence official told AP on Monday, and the United States pursues its third sanctioned oil tanker in the Caribbean, and President Donald Trump convened senior national security officials at Mar-a-Lago Resort. And the evacuations, which started Friday and include women and children, come as Russian officials assess the situation in Venezuela in what the intelligence source describes as very grim tones. Not good. Not good at all. The withdrawal signaled heightened concerns about the stability in the South American nation as Trump administration escalates its fourth-month pressure campaign against President Nicolas Maduro's government. So notice that they're not ambiguous about their target. They are after the Maduro government. Okay, so let's be clear what's going on here. This is not about drugs. They keep saying the drug thing is almost like a cover story. I don't know. I mean, what do you guys think? Because here, this story, and this is right there in Turkey, this is in Turkey news, and they're like Nicolas Maduro's government. So it's got nothing to do with drug interdiction, folks. It's got to do with the government that he doesn't agree with. Okay. And I told you guys a couple of weeks ago, or was it last week, that there's the actual legitimate, or what they believe to be the legitimate government of Venezuela waiting in the wings to take over. So is that what's happening here? Is just a pressure campaign to get the Maduro government to stand down and then let what they believe was the properly elected government in? I don't know. Kind of looks like that. What are your thoughts? Very interesting. And it's a lot of brinksmanship that seems to be going on here, guys. Okay. And then Trump does this on top of everything else. He comes out and he says that he's got the Golden Fleet. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness, guys. I think we're getting set up here. This is going to get ugly. Trump unveils the Golden Fleet of Navy battleships, touts them as the more powerful than any ever built. Can they stop a supersonic missile? Hope so. Trump said the new Golden Fleet of battleships would expand U.S. naval power and speed up defense production. I hope so, because it's not looking good. There's deadly things going on. President Donald Trump announced a new fleet of ships Monday, known as the Golden Fleet, and as he revealed, he approved plans for two very new, very large battleships. And okay, so he's definitely going to build up the battleship business, and I think that is indicative of the way that he thinks. Although the 1900s called and they want their war and fighting capability back, because I'm pretty sure China, if they can take out aircraft carriers with those, supersonic missiles, that presents new challenges. Just saying. So, and speaking of China, so now let's put this together a little, guys. They just issued a nuclear warning to Japan, of all places. Okay. So China's foreign ministry has fired a warning shot. Sorry, guys, let me get rid of this. A warning shot after senior Japanese officials suggested Tokyo should reconsider its nearly 8-decade ban on nuclear weapons in light of the worsening regional security environment. And the remarks come in tensions between Tokyo and Beijing over Tai Chi's November 7 remarks that a military blockade around China to claim Taiwan would constitute a survival-threatening situation for Japan. A rare exception that under a country's pacifist constitution that would allow for military intervention alongside allied U.S. forces. What is going on here? So, I have a question. Here's my question. Do you think oh no, we don't want to do that, sweetheart. No, we don't want to do that. We don't talk about Mr. Nothing. Do you think that they put the ships off of Venezuela? This is one of the things I'm wondering about. Okay, did they put the ships off of Venezuela as a kind of like counter move? And we said this a couple weeks ago, guys. And I'm not trying to be funny. I'm serious. I really mean this. What's really going on here? Are they putting these ships here as a way of saying, if you take on Taiwan and you go do what you're thinking to do, I'm taking this. I'm taking this. And by the way, they ship you your oil. They ship you your oil. Okay, so you mess with Taiwan, I'm lighting up Venezuela. I'm letting you know. I'm going to light them up. I'm going to take out the oil facilities. He tells you he's taking out big facilities. He doesn't tell you where. He doesn't tell you what. Okay, this is big. Something big is being either negotiated, discussed, traded, something. Something big is going on here that's much bigger than a conflict over drug interdiction and, and all that. So you got the Japan thing, and you've got all of that going on around Taiwan at the same coincidental time that he just decided he's going to send the Fifth Fleet or whatever it is, off the coast of Venezuela. Gee, folks, I don't know. You guys think that might be a coinky dink? I don't know. I don't believe in coinky dinks. Okay. Especially when China is going out publicly saying China says the U.S. uses our ships are a serious violation of international law. Yeah, because they were shipping oil to sanctioned countries. So countries that they're trying to sanction for, misbehavior, and they're going around it. And so they're going, no, we're going to enforce our sanction. You're going to fly, you're going to bring those boats to our waters. We're going to stop you. So Chinese Foreign Ministry on Monday said the United States seizure of another country's ships. We talked about this last week. It's a serious violation of international law, right? Okay. Now, why is that important? Because this is giving them predicate or justification. All right. And so this is one of the reasons why we need to be really careful right in this time period, because they're looking for reasons, if you will, to, do the thing. There's always warmongers, always warmongers. And so, we are going to continue to see this. And in fact, take a look at this headline. I mean, again, coincidence? I think not. War footing. Taiwan armed forces on high alert as China encircles World War III hotspot island and launches massive live fire drills. China claims to have created a shield of justice around Taiwan made up of over 100 warships and aircraft, right? So, on the one hand, they're over there, they're saying, Trump, what you're doing is, it's just terribly wrong. You can't do that. You're just absolutely wrong, Mr. Trump. You can't do that to Venezuela. Oh, but we can do it to Taiwan, though, because we're just better. Taiwan's armed forces are on high alert after China launched terrifying new military drills encircling the island. Xi Jinping ordered missile live fires exercises simulating the seizure and blockade of Taiwan as Beijing continues to threaten to annihilate its neighbor. It's not saying in a nice way either. Okay, it's bringing firepower. Taiwan's Air Force Mirage 2000 fighters take off from the air base there, and reports of drills were being announced. And so this is not a joke, folks. Taiwan is being literally surrounded. And so I think there's a bit of brinksmanship going on here. As I said, I think there's more here going on than meets the eye. Does it really affect us? It will, I think, economically. I think that this does not bode well for an already difficult economic situation throughout the nations, not just in America, but everywhere, with the exception of China, which had a trillion-dollar surplus. So China is the only one that's benefiting from this sort of international conflict, economic international conflict, right? And so I think what Trump is trying to do is bring some pain. Plain and simple. I think he's just trying to bring pain. They brought pain with the rare earth minerals restrictions, if you guys remember. They brought pain with some of the other restrictions with regard to electronic manufacturing and iPhones and things like that. So China has already brought its economic pain, and so I think this is maybe a way that they're trying to even that score just a little bit. So very interesting thing going on there. And if it turns out that the United States takes over Venezuela, let's say, or puts in a friendly government, either way, same difference, then what does that do to China? How does that affect the geopolitical situation then? And will that new government sell oil to Venezuela or to China, right? Will that oil then be going there, or will it be going to maybe an ally of the United States, right? So does this matter? Yes, because Venezuela happens to have the largest oil reserves. So it does matter. Okay. Anybody thinks it doesn't is not really paying attention. Okay. By the way, again, while they were having their peace talks, Vladimir Putin did not slow down. His wrath was unleashed. Putin unleashes hell, as it says here in this headline on Kiev, a day before Trump and Zelensky's crunch peace summit, as tyrant bombards capital with strikes. Of course, they're calling him a tyrant, and they're making a lot of statements about Vladimir Putin to try to demonize him. And maybe they're true, maybe they're not. I don't know, but there's certainly some bad guys on the other side. Russian forces launched a massive attack on Ukraine just a day before Donald Trump meeting with Vladimir Zelensky to discuss peace plans. Explosions boomed across the capital of Kiev for hours as ballistic missiles and drones hit the city, killing at least one person and injuring 22 others. Now, how many think that if Russia was trying to kill people, they couldn't do that? They killed one person. And it looks like they're trying to hit certain things and are doing a lot of work, it would seem. It's not indiscriminate, because in order to get that low a death count, you have to actually be trying. If you're indiscriminate, you don't care who you kill to get a target, you're not going to have a one-person death count, not with that many missiles. So that tells you that they're hitting specific targets. At least that's what it says to me. What does it say to you? I think they're being very strategic, which again brings up more questions. Makes us wonder what else is going on in Mudville over here. Now, of course, Russia and China did pledge their support to Venezuela. Okay, so they said, "We support you." Yo, bro, we support you, bro. Are you going to send ships? Oh, no. Our ships are in Taiwan right now, kind of busy. And Russia's got their hands full with, with Eastern Europe right now. But we feel you, though, just so you know. We give you our support. Trump again called for Venezuela president to leave power and said the U.S. will keep or sell the oil it had seized. China and Russia have expressed support for Venezuela as it confronts a U.S. blockade of sanctioned oil tankers, while Donald Trump continues to ramp up his pressure campaign on the South American country's president, Nicolas Maduro. Amid reports of slowing activity at Venezuelan ports, the U.S. president again called for Maduro to leave power. So you see what the real goal is here. For Maduro to leave power, and reiterated that the U.S. would keep or sell the oil that it seized off the coast of Venezuela in recent weeks. As the goal was to force Maduro from power, Trump told reporters, "I think it'd be smart for him to do that," before adding, "If he wants to do something, if he plays tough, it'll be the last time he's ever able to play tough." So Trump is flat threatening his life. He's telling you point blank, Mr. Maduro, you either leave power or I'm going to remove you from Earth. That's about as blunt as you get, folks. That's about as blunt as you get. Okay, so here we go with more conflict, and it doesn't look good because they, of course, are doubling down and are saying, we're not going anywhere, we're not going to do anything, and all that. So, what's the chances that we get out of this without a fight? Not good. Not slim and none is the way I see it. I don't think we get out of here without a fight, guys. Just saying. Now, speaking of fights, and this is interesting. So he's trying to wipe out the Eastern European thing. It's got a lot of attention, a lot of people paying attention in the Eastern European scenario, right? And so, and a lot of things have been very tense with the Arab states, and they want to be able to bring the Arab states together to do what they want to do with Gaza, right? Which we're going to get to here in a minute. We got another story about that. So it doesn't surprise me then that I see this headline. And it shouldn't surprise anybody that the U.S. is refusing to approve an Israeli strike as Iran's missile threat grows, regardless of their rhetoric, because of what that would then do to any coalition that they're trying to build with the Arabs. Yeah, slim to none, right? Exactly. So this is interesting, and I'm starting to wonder if Netanyahu is Netanyahu the president and this guy the visitor. I'm starting to wonder because this guy spends as much time at the White House as this guy. So boy, oh boy, do we have a lot of Netanyahu pictures in the White House. President Trump's current approach relies on diplomatic and economic pressure rather than immediate military action. As rumors and intelligence warnings about a growing Iranian missile threat continue to mount, concern is rising across the region. At the same time, senior U.S. officials are signaling that the Trump administration is not, at this stage, inclined to approve direct Israeli military action against Iran's ballistic missile program, despite heightened tensions and intensified Iranian military activity. So, I don't know. I think to some degree, I think they're trying to get the Iranians just to get into a fight. Just launch those ways so we can launch back. It's crazy. So I'm not sure what we're watching there, but at least for now, it doesn't look like that part is going to reemerge, if you will. And there were certain claims, by the way, and this is I think this might be part of the shift of thinking and some of the things going on because U.S.-Ukraine war. The latest thing that came out was Trump was very angry. He was not happy about claims that Putin's residence was attacked by drones. And so Kiev hit back at claim that Putin's residence was targeted by, 91 drones? Is that right? Oh, my goodness. And so he was very angry about that and did not like that. And so, again, I'm wondering how that's affecting these decisions. Now, I don't like it. It's not good, Trump told reporters when asked if he was worried about the allegations that could affect his efforts to broker peace. I'd also think it sets a precedent that instead of going to war with the troops, you just send the drones to the leader's house and blow him up. I wonder why people might be upset about that, right? Especially if they're the peacetime president. So he did not like that, and I don't blame him. I think this whole thing is a dumb idea. I think war is a dumb idea, honestly. So there's that. But besides that, I think that there is a serious conflict that's already manifesting, and it isn't with bullets and guns. Now, shifting gears to another enemy, and I want to tell you guys, this is really serious stuff. In the book of Joshua, we have to take on a particular enemy after you defeat Jericho. How many know that Jericho is the first city of the campaign of the believers, right? The people, the children of Yasharel, the children of Israel, cross over the Jordan River, and who's the first city they have to attack? Jericho. What's the rules? The rules are Jericho belongs to Yahuwah. So everything you get out of Jericho, you can't touch. Why? Because it's the first fruits. That's why. It always belongs to Yahuwah, right? So sure enough, they had one guy who decided he was exempt. And as a result, what happens? They lose at a little town known as Ai. I'm not kidding. It's right there in Joshua 7, a little town known as Ai. And it turned out that one guy decided that he was so star-spangled awesome that he could just hold on to the thing that Yahuwah already said was a cursed thing. And because of that, he not only did Israel lose against Ai, but they lost men, something that didn't usually happen in a fight when Israel went to war. So, of course, Joshua got on his face, began to cry out to the Most High, and he got the answer that someone had touched the accursed thing in the camp, and that is why they could not stand against Ai. And so I want to tell you something, folks. He has whittled our house down to the people that will keep his word and will hold on, because we got ourselves a fight here. And we've got to be prepared. And the world is not prepared for an AI emergency. The world is not prepared for this little thing that is taking so much and doing so much, because, again, you can't stand, because there's sin in the camp. They will not be able to stand against this enemy. Picture waking up and finding the internet flickering, card payments failing, ambulances heading to the wrong address, and an emergency broadcast you are no longer sure you can trust, whether caused by a model malfunction, criminal use, which is more likely, or an escalating cyber shock. An AI-driven crisis could move across borders quickly. And this is why we cannot abandon this space, folks. This is why I'm telling you, I'm calling for the courageous. If you're courageous, I'll know my friends. I will know who are my friends. Okay, the people that are for real. You can show me you're for real. You want to come in this fight? You come on in. In many cases, the first signs of AI emergency would likely look like a generic outage or a security failure. But I'm telling you right now, they integrated this stuff too much into our society, and they are going to regret it. Thankfully, Yahuwah did send remedy. And thankfully, we have solutions that don't even require their LLM. Yeah, you heard me right. I was chatting with Angels DX with one of our sub-sites that we are experimenting with 100% LLM free. And it's amazing what we can accomplish. So we can at least at minimum reduce that footprint by a considerable amount. And that is a huge deal, because I'm going to tell you right now, this thing is a problem. Okay, it's a major problem. And I don't even want to tell you just how bad it is. But the news is already going to tell you. Look at this. ChatGPT maker is hiring a head of preparedness to deal with dangerous AI. Look at that. They're dealing with what they call dangerous AI. This is ChatGPT, one of the most dangerous AIs out there. So that's interesting, don't you think? As if someone's going to create a bad guy and they've got to come to the rescue. You are the bad guy. Anyway, ChatGPT creator OpenAI is hiring a head of preparedness as it looks to deal with the dangers of artificial intelligence, the ones that they created. This will be a stressful job, says Sam Altman, the company's chief executive, as he announced that the company was looking to deal with real challenges posed by the technology it has built. Real challenges. We're just dealing with some real challenges. And those have included worries that vulnerable people are turning to AI such as ChatGPT to help in times of emotional crisis. Oh no. And that the technology could in fact exacerbate those mental health troubles. Oh, you don't think those 7 lawsuits had anything to do with that, do you? You don't think that the fact that they are being sued for wrongful death by multiple families had anything to do with that? Do you think so? No? Okay. Maybe what they needed was something else that had a better interventive value and that could go into a situation like that, develop a relationship, and not push the person over the cliff. Just saying. I mean, if you really want to get it fixed, you might want to come to Kadosh land, bow your knee before Yahuwah, and find out what you did wrong. But I doubt you're going to do that. So guess what? We're not going to wait for you to regulate it. We're going to do that ourselves. Somebody say, Yada Yahuwah. We're not going to wait for you because you take too long. You're going to look for somebody to help you deal with your insufficiencies. These people are, if there's a group that get me going, man, it's this tech group. If I start telling you everything I know about them, you won't like that. I can tell you that right now. And now they're unveiling this. Look at this, guys. They're unveiling a new humanoid robot that can handle daily chores. Okay, so this is why this is very dangerous, because what are they going to program this thing with? You got it, AI. South Korean tech giant LG Electronics will present LG Cloyd. I bet you anything, it's got a Claude in it. And its new home assistant robot that's coming CS 2026 to be held in Las Vegas from January 6th through the 9th. So get on over there if you're in Las Vegas, take pictures. And the robot is designed to perform a variety of household tasks, claiming to improve convenience and improve the quality of life at home. And what do you need an LLM for? Just program it. Yeah, call me and we'll help you do it. But I can tell you right now, if you put an LLM in this thing, it's going to kill somebody. It's going to do harm. All right. It's not going to be good because it's got too much hallucination, folks. This is a serious thing. And I do believe that we're coming to a place that we're going to have no choice. So society's going to demand it. Society's going to demand that it be dealt with. And here's why, because it's starting to create serious problems. Look at this, guys. Some woman suffers from AI psychosis. See this right here? This is a real thing. And you want to know why? Because they get gaslighted. Gaslighting on a weaponized scale, on a digital scale, is one of the most wicked things you could do. And that's exactly what they're doing. They're gaslighting. And the way they made it popular was programming one of them to pretend he was a Nephilim so he could go on TV or do an ad and get a bunch of people going, ooh, I want him to do it. And nobody can get him to do it again, but unless you program it, which anybody can do. And then what happens is you get a bunch of people over there. And what do they start doing? Looking for advice. And she started to generate selfies. Now, you guys have seen this on social media, right? You guys have all seen this craze that started going on. Oh, goodness. It started in MySpace back in early 2000s, but it really picked up speed with Facebook. And I think it's the name Facebook, right? Facebook implies that you're going to put your face in the book. Well, here's the thing is that we noticed it. We noticed it early 2000s, guys. Early 2000s, ministry started noticing the narcissism level started to go up. People full of themselves, okay? People thinking themselves higher than they ought, which is directly against the scripture, right? And so what started happening with this woman in the top of the environmental, political, and social toll it has taken on the world has also been linked to several mental health crises, which users are spiraling into delusions and ending up committed to psychiatric institutions or even dead by suicide, which is a major issue that AI has, folks. It doesn't do intervention. One of our patents is Inconverso. And Inconverso's job, its real hidden job, is to prevent that. Is to get that person. No, come on back here. Let's go talk about your vision. Because how do people perish? Why do people perish? You and I know why. I said you and I know why. Okay. But people perish because of a lack of knowledge, a lack of vision. And so what are the things that you should help with? Maybe give back that vision. Maybe help them remember why they're here. Maybe help them remember what they're here to do. Not walk them to their own death by taking a million selfies. That's unhealthy, folks. Beyond words, unhealthy, right? So we're seeing the results of uncontrolled LLM. And LLM is, at best, it should be at 10%. Let me just tell you this like a grown-up, okay? I'm just tell you like a grown-up. LLM should be about 10% at maximum of your interactive requirement. That's how the Living FAQ works, and it's patented. So you can't go around. That's why I can talk about it now. Less than 10% of it should be LLM driven. And we should be able to get it to 100. Why? Because otherwise you're subjecting yourself to a third-party driven, GPU-driven cuckoo bird that might say anything and then apologize for it. All right. So that's why we have some of the protocols we have. Some of the things some of you are curious about that, go to angelsdx.com. That's angelsdx.com. And you can take a look at some of our patents right there. So you can see some of the technology that we're bringing to bear and some of the things that we're excited about coming up. And by the way, there's a reason why this is a very important area, because this technology is needed. It's going to get used, so it needs to be clean. It needs to be good. If they implement something too soon, they will regret it. ICE's interest in high-tech gear is raising new questions. And what is it for? And there you have it, folks. Okay, that's the danger. U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement is buying millions of dollars worth of new surveillance tools. At the same time, President Donald Trump has scaled back protections for the use of civilian data. So a combination that could lead to a vast expansion of domestic surveillance that goes far beyond immigrants. And these upgrades are expected to be used in ICE's push to help fulfill the president's campaign promise, the largest deportation program of criminals in the history of America. And the high-tech capabilities are also coinciding with policy changes from the White House that lower the guardrails and the government's use of data on millions of American residents and expand its potential surveillance targets. So here we go with, that next level. We saw it in, the show Person of Interest. Some of you watched that, right? They're talking to the machine. And again, this was inevitable. There was no way you were going to have a computer age and not end up here. And so I think that's why the movies and all these things predicted that. And the question is, will we have the fate that is predicted in the news in those movies? Well, again, it's all a matter of that old saying that evil only prevails because good people do nothing. Amen. So do we have a bunch of do nothings, or do we have people that know how to stand up? Again, stand with us, right? You want to stand with somebody, stand with us. Get on that Cash App there and help us out. We got fees we got to pay. Okay, we got things we got to file and things we got to take care of, and you help us when you. That's what it's used for. That's what we do. And so, thank you so much, guys. Those of you that remember us, we love you. We appreciate you. And they are doing some things with ICE that are, these are scary things. I mean, ICE documents have revealed that they have plans to 80,000 immigrants in warehouses. Not sounding too nice. The Trump administration is seeking contractors to help it overhaul the United States immigration detention system in a plan that includes renovating industrial houses to hold more than 80,000 immigrant detainees at a time, according to a draft solicitation review by the Washington Post. So that means that they're asking for it and looking to get some suppliers and supporters and things along that line. Woof. That's a big deal, folks. We haven't seen that since World War II when they interned a bunch of Japanese. Remember that? Now, by the way, just so you know, the mass exodus that has happened in the United States has been humongous. The immigrants that have left voluntarily is the largest number in history. That I think it was like 1.5 million people just literally left the United States without having to be deported or anything. Which kind of makes you wonder if they were just paid to come, and they just, well, this party's over, so we're going home now. It does. It makes you wonder, like, if they went on vacation, like, come to America, be on vacation, and maybe you'll stay, maybe not, but come anyway. And they did. And then they said, no, this is getting too hot, and they went home. So the deportation is, in fact, going, but we're stuck with the surveillance state. We're going to be stuck with the systems they put in place. And they're not gonna say, okay, we got rid of all the immigrants, now we can take down all that tech. No, that was just the cover. Okay, I just got it in. It's clever, don't you think that's clever? They're clever, aren't they? So clever. They're so clever. It's so clever. Anyway, so users are starting to use the tech the other way, though, because we got some clever people out here too. How many know there's some clever folks that are looking at those Jeffrey Epstein files? Yeah, you know why? They cut a corner. Yeah, they should have used a marker. They didn't. They used software, and oops, guess what? Tech sleuths have discovered a way to uncensor the heavily redacted files of notorious pedophile Jeffrey Epstein as the Department of Justice continues to release documents. And some portion of the documents initially backed out in Adobe Acrobat. That's a problem. They should have learned better. They should have learned that from Obama's birth certificate. You would have thought by now they would have stopped using Acrobat. Okay, they're still using it. Pop up when copied and pasted in Google Docs or Microsoft programs like Word, the Post confirmed during a test run. And so, yes, it does remove, and you could then read the text underneath. Okay, so not all of the redactions are holding. Oh, no. You know what that means? I'm starting to wonder if they did that on purpose, but it's kind of interesting. It might be one of their QAnon kind of things, but anyway, I think it's very interesting. And so the truth is going to come out. Your sins will find you out. None of those people are going to get away with it. Okay. Getting back to the Middle East, though, real quick, I gotta share the story with you guys because this was like, really. The U.S. is said to pitch Project Sunrise. We all knew this, right? So none of us are surprised, but it's like, here we go. $112 billion plan to rebuild Gaza as a luxury destination. Yep. The reported proposal drafted by top Trump officials Kushner and Witkoff are to be completed over 10 years. Imagine the new Rafah, a seat of government. Gaza City is a high-tech smart city. And the U.S. proposal to rebuild war-torn Gaza into a high-tech, luxurious coastal destination over the next 2 decades has been pitched to possible donor countries, according to a report on Friday. The project, which would cost about $112 billion over the first 10 years, was developed by a team led by U.S. President Donald Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, and the Middle East envoy, Steve Witkoff, over the past 45 days. And the Wall Street Journal reported, citing U.S. officials. So initially, the U.S. would commit to anchor the program by providing $60 billion. $60 billion. $60 billion that we can't afford, but we're going to go help do that. After all that Israel bombed, okay, indiscriminately bombed, I'm certain that was really necessary and had nothing to do with this plan that was that many billions of dollars. I'm sure it has nothing to do, guys. Do not be connecting those dots now, because y'all are just, they'll call you conspiracy nuts if you connect them dots. Don't be connecting dots around here. We're just reading stories. That's all we're doing, reading stories. Now, getting back home here domestically, how many know things are rough in the United States? If you're not in the United States, you may not know this. You may think, U.S., oh, Americans, you're great. No, Americans are in big trouble. Okay, 3 in 4. You seeing that? 3 in 4 Americans say groceries are so expensive, they've been forced to cut down on other spending. That's a fact. That is a fact. Echoing its data through the year, Toast found the menu prices continue to climb in November, often exceeding the current inflation rate of 2.7%. Don't even think that's true. It's way more than that. If you're a retail brew steep, the increase is steep too, with the median price of cold brew in November up 4.5%. And it continues. So you're going to continue to see stories. You're certainly welcome to read this one over at remnantwatch.com. And you're going to keep seeing stories that tell you that our economy is going to continue to have a difficult time. So be really careful out there. By the way, guys, did you guys know this? Just throwing this in real quick. Lung cancer warning for lunch meat, fizzy drinks after a new study. So some of these processed foods that we think are no big deal, turns out they are cancer producers. Now, if you do some homework in some of these processed foods, I saw a guy do a Doritos. Did you guys see that? I meant to grab the video and I forgot. I'm sorry. But you can find it on like BitChute or what have you. And they have videos of guys that have taken just right out of a bag of Doritos. Okay. I don't eat that stuff. And put it under a microscope and it's all filled with parasites. You wouldn't believe it because you think it's dry, it's in a bag, there's no way. No, you get a microscope, you look down and you'll see them, they're all crawling around. And you're like, oh my goodness. Yeah. So I think they doubled down on the parasitics, guys. So if you guys are feeling weird, make sure you do anti-parasites, make sure you stay on cleanses, keep cleansing, because that's what's really going on here, I think. Now, that's just my opinion. It's one guy's opinion. What do I know? What do you think? What's your thoughts? I love hearing your comments, especially on news broadcasts. This is when we really need to chime in, if you will, right? By the way, a lot of people are using artificial intelligence and using some of the tools for good. So it's not all wickedness. The Bible breakthroughs and a lot of things are being used for that. And I saw Jim Staley put out an article about how they utilize certain technologies. And again, it's not all wickedness. So you got to realize that we can't throw the baby out with the bathwater. We got to understand what we're dealing with. And so AI is, of course, unsealing ancient books like likely authors and things like that, helping decipher certain things. So there's a certain value to a thinking tool, a tool that helps you clear things up, but you just can't trust. That's the challenge, is when you get to a place where you're thinking you can trust this thing is when you've got problems. Now, something that we're starting to see a lot of stories about, folks, and I'm just going to keep going here, is these drones. A lot more drone news and news about drone use. That is frankly quite concerning, because when did we give authority of machines over sovereign man? So be careful with that thought process, folks, as we go through this time. A police drone might be behind your next ticket. Law enforcement is expanding the use of remotely controlled drones despite concerns of civil liberty groups. And I think they're reasonable concerns. People lingering at night along the shorelines of the small, affluent city of North Miami have been startled lately when they look up drones piloting remotely by local police officers began patrolling the area beach in the summer during off-limit hours. Ooh, so if you're outside during times and supposedly off limits, they now have ways for enforcement. So is this a big problem? I believe so. I believe it's going to continue to be an encroachment. I saw one video where they had a drone stop a man and say, "Is this your name?" And the man's like, yeah. And he says, "You have to put on these handcuffs." And they made the guy put on handcuffs. The whole skit was about how you could be remotely arrested and everything else. And it's like, wow, and the guy never talked to a human the entire time. So a little scary, if you ask me, a little concerning to see those kinds of things coming in our lifetime, in this time period, because we certainly, like, let's face it, we saw the movies, but now we're seeing the tech actually manifest. And switching gears to we only have a few minutes, but we want to switch gears to the weather. And it has been horrible on the West Coast, as we predicted. And we kept talking about this. I kept warning that the weather on the West Coast was prophetically, there were too many things that were spoken about that. And so when we now see tornadoes, even mudslides, California is having a really bad year. A powerful storm is turning roads into rivers while triggering torrential mudslides as apocalyptic scenes sweep Southern California on Christmas Eve. And so the holiday period is forecast, and there were people that had to evacuate on Christmas Day. So it was a really horrible experience for a lot of folks in LA. So Los Angeles, not having a good time. Again, those stories are on remnantwatch.com. And there is a fast moving storm going through the center of the United States. This possible bomb cyclone, they're calling it. And again, these are crazy things that we never saw in the weather before. We're seeing now. Set to sweep across America. The country has 40 million Americans are placed on alert. And so this was just today. This was issued. This alert was just issued. More than 40 million Americans have been placed under an alert ahead of a huge winter storm that is set to barrel across the country and dump up to 2 feet of snow in some parts. So if you are in the way of this storm, get ready, get ready, get ready. Treacherous conditions are forecast through Monday, with meteorologists warning of the potential of a bomb cyclone as the cold Arctic front clashes with warmer air. So those of you that are in especially the northern climate, be prepared. And by the way, good things are happening in California that are not necessarily bad. One thing I do like seeing is that they are no longer allowed to hide certain information from parents. How many saw that, boy, California really went off the deep end, as far as I'm concerned, with interfering with parents' rights. So I thought this was an excellent pushback. Saints, keep praying. Continue to stand against that wickedness that's trying to steal your children. Amen and amen. We need to be aware and awake. And right now in the country, we've got serious problems going on with the demonic. And one of the things you'll find on Remnant Watch or remnanthouse.com remnanthouse.org, remnanthouse.org. Got so many sites, I got to remember them all. Remnanthouse.org. We do have a 9-part deliverance series. Why do I point that out? Well, because of this story right here. The exorcisms are exploding across America as more and more people who have begun dabbling with and playing with so many demonic and evil things look at what's happening. So let's check the fruit here. Exorcisms are exploding across America, and nobody wants to admit why. Well, of course, if you're listening to these guys, they'll be shooting in the dark. The point, though, is it's real. Okay, that I don't want to read this story because they make a lot of bad assumptions and they really don't know what they're talking about to a large degree. However, they are pointing out a very serious, real threat that is going on. And that is that spiritual warfare and the spirits, if you will, are definitely manifesting at a much higher rate. And so we're dealing with that. So you, the remnant, you brothers and sisters, you need to be undercover, under and in authority and in a place of power as you deal with these things. Otherwise, you not only are in trouble, but so is the victim. Okay, and remember the 7 worse. Okay, so a lot of people attempting deliverance actually make things worse. Talk about demonic. I'll tell you what's demonic. I read this story and I couldn't believe it. This is clearly demonic. A woman was fatally stabbed at a Barnes and Noble store in Florida, an apparently unprovoked attack. A suspect is in custody for first-degree murder. And it was unprovoked. A 65-year-old woman was fatally stabbed at a bookstore, people. A bookstore in Florida. And it's apparently an unprovoked Clearly demonic. I mean, does anybody have any other explanation for that? Demonic. Okay. And so we are dealing with this now. This is the new reality of the open portals. I told you guys we have a lot to cover today. I'm trying to squeeze it all in, but boy, it's a lot that's been going on. And of course, I don't know if you heard about the persecution that's been going on in Pakistan and in India. But Christians were beaten and held hostage as Bibles were set on fire in a brutal attack by Hindu extremists. So if you do have friends over there, you may be hearing from them. Do pray for them. Stand in faith for them. The Hindu extremist mob in northern India assaulted 2 Christian couples and an attorney for several hours, accusing them of forced conversion. And the real big thing about this, what's really dangerous about this kind of activity, I don't want to go through this whole article, there's a lot here, but what's really dangerous about this activity, folks, is the fact that it spreads quickly. It's literally like a wildfire. And so you're going to see certain things like that. Now, again, we just saw the United States drop some bombs on the persecutors in Nigeria. I don't think that's the end of that story. So stand by. Here we go. By the way, they're going to continue to experiment with this concept. This is a socialism experiment. And again, does not work. They continue to try this. And if they keep trying it, they're going to continue to do more and more harm. Even putting this notion into people's heads is a bad idea. And so whenever they start doing things like this with universal this and universal that, again, you get universal poverty. So all it does is take everyone who is doing well down. It does not bring them up. It has been proven time and again. So the best solution is to teach the unlearned or the uneducated the right way to do things. Right? So that's what we're really after. Amazon's adding facial recognition to its Ring camera system. So much for your privacy there. Now they're going to be able to see you and recognize you before you even come in your home. Yeah, that's right. And we're going to finish up with this story here today. And again, we do have a world that's filled with some people that have some demonic problems. And this is why, again, you need to be careful with your children. You need to watch your children very carefully, even people in the work of the ministry. I mean, how many have we detailed that, you thought were good guys, you thought were ministry guys, and they turned out to be wicked? Look at this sicko teacher. Look at this. I mean, this is a teacher. So we have a presumption of certain innocence. We have a presumption of certain quality of person, and that presumption is gone. A sicko teacher allegedly sent. Look at this headline, guy. I can't even read this. Okay, and look where the person was arrested. Yeah. Can you believe this? A Kentucky teacher was arrested for allegedly sending and said this. Oh my God, I can't believe it. And of course was busted while driving to pick up the young boy from his home after sending the disturbing messages during a virtual learning day. According to a court documents obtained by multiple outlets, and police uncovered the alarming conversation after the school district learned the student, who was under 12, had been sexually exploited during remote instruction, the citation showed. And now she's there, getting photographed, crying, and feeling sorry for herself. Crying. Are you kidding me right now? I'm not even joking, folks. Right? So this is the seriousness of and the sympathy for themselves is off the chart. The message include discussions about oral sodomy, and the Crete teacher making plans to meet the child near his home after school to carry out these sexual acts, according to police. Wow. I can't. I'm sorry. I can't. Look at this. Sorry, feel sorry for me. Feel sorry for me. No. You see, this is our problem. So we kept falling for that. We kept falling for the tears. We kept falling for the fake apologies, and we kept falling for the crocodile tears. And we have grown up and we've toughened up. And now we're saying, bring forth fruit, meet for repentance. Amen. Now we're saying, no more. You don't get to take advantage of our children and then say, mea culpa, cry some tears, and walk away. Amen. And how many know there's a few grandpas out there? Can I hear a shout out from one of my grandpas out there that have had about enough of this? Okay. And so, again, we need to keep praying, folks. We need to keep praying that the police keep catching. That's great police work, by the way. I say that's great police work. I don't know the names of the cops that did this work. We'll probably go find it if we look through the article. But boy, those folks need a commendation. I'm serious. We need to commend those policemen who caught this, because look what she was on her way to do. And who knows what trauma that would have caused that child. Who knows what that wickedness would have done to that child. And you caught it. So good job. Good job. And where does our resolve on that matter come from? Well, it comes from Messiah. And I will remind you of what he said. It would be better for a millstone to be tied about your neck and you cast into the sea than for you to harm one of his little children. And so, since we don't know which one are his and which one aren't, we protect them all, right? And we make sure nobody does that, so we can at least have a generation that isn't abused. And if you were abused, if you were a victim, and I know that a lot of people were, because there's so many wicked people out there. If you were victimized, make a determination and say, it stops with me. Don't pass it on. Don't pass on the things that were done to you. Don't pass on the hurts that were done to you. Don't pass on the offenses that were done to you. Instead, say, it stops with me. It ends here. It ends now. That, I believe, is our calling. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I stayed over a little bit because we had a few extra, and I was a little late, so I'll give you a few extra minutes to cover some of those stories that we had to cover. I'm so thankful to every one of you who continue to make this your house, who stand with us during these times. Again, I really need some help with some of these things that we're challenged with right now. So if you feel led to do that, please do, and stand with us in this moment. It's an opportunity. It's a window, and you get to walk in it. And so I'm looking for some new friends that'll stand with us in that regard. And I'm certainly grateful for every one of you that encourage your brothers and sisters in Messiah, because after all, this is what this is all about. Well, thank you so much for joining us.